Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Thursday, October 10th, 2024. The Steelers are set to have their second practice of Week 6 as they prepare to play the Las Vegas Raiders at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side a little bit later today. We will also be talking to offensive coordinator Arthur Smith and defensive coordinator Terrell Austin on the south side. I'll be there for all of that. And then back here on the YouTube channel and in your podcast streams with Zachary Smith, who I believe will actually be joining us after he had a little incident yesterday, little technical difficulties. Smitty will be back today, and I appreciate to Nick Faribault for filling in on yesterday's afternoon drive, which is one video up here on the YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about the Steelers culture. I had a lot of questions about this come through over the last couple days as their people sort of worked their way through what was happening with Steelers wide receiver George Pickens. And, I think there's a narrative out there that oh, well, the Steelers just always have these head cases. They have these problem children, right? And certainly there have been some over the years. Antonio Brown, very famously, right? And more recently, a guy like Deontay Johnson, and why there seems to be this cluster of them in the wide receiver room. I'm not sure I have the answer to that, but I just kind of wanted to first set the record straight about the Steelers culture in general. I don't think this locker room is one that is full of bad apples or guys that aren't pulling in the same direction. In fact, I would say in my time covering the Steelers, which has been full-time since 2019, this is probably the team with the fewest of those guys that I've been covering. It really seems like this group is really dedicated to what's going on. Even players whose motivation externally looks like it ought to be thin, like a guy like Najee Harris, who the organization honestly turned their back on. He's still been very dedicated, very team first guy. Doesn't like talking to us, but hey, that doesn't matter. I think this is a very, very well put together group of players. There's a good mix of veterans and young guys. They are singularly mission focused for the most part. This is not a team with a bad culture. And in fact, I think the fact that the players have responded the way they have to this Pickens stuff, where he's sort of being ostracized, maybe not publicly, but certainly you saw what happened in the game, or maybe you didn't see, but I when you're sitting by yourself on the bench while you're pouting, I think that's your teammates sending a pretty strong message that, hey, we're not going to be a part of this. You can do whatever you want. We're not going to be a part of this. And I think there's a strength to that. Now, has it always been that way? No. And why this collection of problems at wide receiver? Well, I mean, I just think for whatever reason the wide receiver position seems to breed that. I don't really understand that, but it is certainly not a Steelers specific problem that wide receivers cause more problems than anybody else around the league. That's a well-known fact. The other part is I think it's a little bit overblown how much the Steelers wide receivers have been quote unquote problems. I mean, yes, okay, Deontay Johnson was traded from here for less than ideal value, mostly because the Steelers wanted rid of him. And it certainly seems like George Pickens is heading down that road as well. But there's been lots of other guys that were not that. Juju was not that. James Washington was not that. He wasn't very good, but he was not that. Chase Claypool was traded for great value. He was not given away because the Steelers didn't want him anymore. Now, the Steelers had decided they weren't going to re-sign Chase Claypool, and his attitude was not well liked in the locker room and probably not by the Steelers either. But Chase Claypool never became an on-the-field distraction in the way that George Pickens or Deontay Johnson were. Chase Claypool was never out there not blocking. Chase Claypool was never out there not giving effort while he was supposed to be giving effort. He just didn't have a great attitude in general. Those are two different things. Let's not lump them together. And let's not lump anyone in with Antonio Brown, who the Steelers should get a ton of credit for, considering how long they kept that guy cool. They had him for so long, nobody else could do anything with him. He left Pittsburgh and was out of the league in a matter of games. And so, the fact that the Steelers held things together as long as they did with Antonio Brown, even though it ended up in failure, should show you how strong their culture is. Now, I say all of that, but I'm going to follow it up with, I think culture is an overrated factor. Does it help? Yeah, it does. But how many wins is culture worth at the end of the year? Not many, one or two. I think where you really see culture come out is in this non-losing season streak, right? Culture is going to keep you from your season from falling apart. It's going to keep guys from giving up. It's going to keep guys from checking out. It's going to keep bad things from spiraling. But it's not going to make a good team great. Like, it's not going to take a 10-win team to a 12-win team just because they have good culture. You need talent for that. I mean, coaching, yes, but really mostly talent. And I think that's mostly where this Steelers team has fallen short over the last 5 years, especially on offense. And I think it's where it'll continue to fall short this year. Just is not a particularly talented unit. All the culture in the world is not going to erase that. So I just kind of want to touch base on that because I feel like, obviously, us in the media are going to bring attention to something like what George Pickens did when someone like that does it. I mean, that's the job. But I don't want people to get a misconception about what the overall locker room is like. I was in there yesterday after having been like very on Twitter the whole morning. And it was like walking into a different universe. Like, I mean, it's a group of guys that are very dedicated, very upset with themselves about the mistakes that were made, the errors. They are fixable. Multiple guys took personal responsibility for things that happened. Multiple guys have said, we can be better. We will be better. We know how to be better. We got to do the work. Like, I don't see anyone in there outside of one or two guys, not doing and saying the right things. And I think that's pretty rare. If you get it to one or two guys in the NFL right now, I think you're doing pretty well. You're not going to always have 53 out of 53 all pulling in the same direction. And so, yeah, I just wanted to clear that up. And maybe we'll talk to George today. Maybe we won't. I don't know. I'm not expecting a whole lot from his explanation, but we'll see how that goes. We certainly will learn some things from the coordinators. I'm excited to ask Arthur Smith about that third down call early in the game and maybe talk to TA about what the plan is for replacing Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, and DeMarvin Leal. We talked with Nick Faribaugh on yesterday's afternoon drive if you want to go check that out. That's it for now. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on YouTube. If you're listening somewhere else, leave us a 5-star review and make sure you subscribe on that platform. And then head over to SteelersNow.com where you'll find all my written work. We'll have some pieces of the Southside Scoop posted a little bit later today and then build on that as the week goes on. Until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and enjoy.